Hello and welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is The Potluck, playing at Playwrights Horizons, although it is produced by Soho Rep and INTAR. It's a co-production. Now before I get into, it's a sticker. Before I get into this unusual new musical, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me grow this channel and tell you about all these interesting new plays I'm seeing here in New York City. For all of those who love theater, this is a place you want to be. I'm going to tell you about stuff. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about The Potluck today see, now this confuses me. It's got a little mark over the E, but he said his name is pronounced César Alvarez, but it's got a mark over the E, which would be César. So I don't know. We're going to call them César because that's what César says in the play. And it's directed by Sarah Benson. So what did I know about this play going in? I knew absolutely nothing. So here's a little history about the show's development. César Alvarez was commissioned in 2017 by Barbara Whitman and Beth Williams to write a musical about the Greensboro Massacre. A first draft came in 2019, a second in 2020. From there, it went through a string of workshops at Baryshnikov Arts Center in 2021, produced by the Perelman Performing Arts Center with Soho Rep, at New York Stage and Film at Marist College in 2022, and back with Perelman Performing Arts Center in 2023. In 2025, it got a concert performance at Dartmouth College and the David Rubenstein Atrium at Lincoln Center. Now, here in 2026, it's getting its full production from Soho Rep and INTAR at Playwrights Horizons, directed by Sarah Benson. So this thing has been in the works for almost a decade. For those of you not familiar with Soho Rep and INTAR, Soho's mission is to give radical theater makers top caliber productions and development at key moments in their artistic practice, treating artists as thought leaders and prioritizing a direct, unmediated connection between them and the audience. Their core values push them to center underrepresented narratives and keep tickets affordable and accessible, and take care of the people making the work. And INTAR, their co-producer, is dedicated to developing and sustaining the Latinx voice in American theater. They commission bold work by Latinx artists. They help early career artists land their first professional credits and serve as an intergenerational creative home for the Latinx experience. I'm trying to give you an idea of what we're about to get into here. I also want to read César Alvarez's bio because I think it's going to tell you what you need to know about the kind of show you're about to see. At least I read this and I went, oh, okay. So César Alvarez, writer and composer, they, them, is a composer, lyricist, playwright, and performance maker. They create big experimental gatherings disguised as musicals in the key of interdimensionality, socio-political transformation, kinship, and coexistence. That's just the first couple sentences, and then there's more credits. They've won quite a few awards, including the Kleban Award for Lyric Writing and a Jonathan Larson grant. So a good, impressive resume from César. So this is a meta-theatrical piece. We're watching a writer and their process of trying to create a piece of musical theater about the Greensboro Massacre. Now, I wasn't super familiar with the massacre going in. It was a protest against the Klan and capitalism held by a communist Marxist group. And there was a collaboration between the government, the Klan, and the Nazi Party to allow these people to be attacked. 5 people were murdered in Greensboro in 1979. Now, the writer we follow has gotten a commission to write a musical based on this massacre, which they have a personal connection to. They're named after 2 of the men who were murdered, and their parents were friends with and part of the same Workers' Party as the people who were killed. So it's a very personal piece, but it's also very meta-theatrical in that we're watching them struggle to make the piece, and that struggle is keenly felt by the audience right alongside with the author. Okay, now we're going to go off script and I will just talk about my feelings about this show. This is a challenging piece of theater. It is not traditional in any sense of the word. It's really asking a lot of its audience. So let me start out with just some things that I really enjoyed about this show. The show is focused on César Alvarez, and he is played by actor Anthony Alfaro. I'm sorry, I've already messed up the pronouns. César Alvarez, the central character, the writer who's writing the show, is played by actor Anthony Alfaro, who uses all pronouns. And he is a singer, songwriter, actor, and native New Yorker who has been developing the role of César in the Potluck since 2022. He's also commonly known as Tony, lead singer and co-founder of Tony and the Kiki, NYC's premier glam band. Okay, so Anthony Alfaro, great voice, really got a chance to show it off in the second act. Strong performer, seems really well suited for this role of playing this non-binary character. I also really enjoyed Barbara Walsh as the mother. She felt very grounded. Let me check her pronouns. She, her, I figured. I just thought she was great. She brought humor to the role. She was a very grounding presence in the show, a real pro. I love that this is a 12-person cast, and I love that they're all singers, actors, and instrumentalists. They create the band, they create the whole space. The director has them moving in throughout the instruments, seamless way. They also walk up and down the aisles, so no late seating in this show. I really enjoy seeing multi-talented artists like this doing theater. And I also enjoyed particularly the backdrop. We start with just a white background that they can project images on, and then later that comes down and there's this beautiful painted wall that has all these different colors, including neon, so that when they shine the black light on it, those stand out and you get this three-dimensional kind of feel. It also, whether they put a red light, a blue light, it really makes it feel like it's constantly changing. I thought that was really beautiful. So what I struggled with this piece is it's not a traditional, I prefer more of a traditional narrative. It is not that. This is a meta-theater piece about the act of creating art. And right at the beginning, César comes in and tells us that they have gotten this commission for $15,000 to write this piece that they pitched, among other ideas, but this is the one they chose. And César is struggling with having to write this. And I'm actually going to quote this from the script. This is the first, maybe the second page. We start out with a monologue. And this is, César says, "But now, since an incorporated fiscal entity wants to pay me to write a musical about the murder of 5 people who are trying to destroy capitalism, it will be done. Capitalism wins again. This is so problematic. The literal system that is forcing me into the situation where I have to do this painful thing that I don't want to do is the system that they were trying to destroy." Now, this is delivered tongue-in-cheek. Like the irony of, wow, I'm making theater for a capitalist entity about people who were against capitalism. And the irony is not lost on me. But the issue I had is with, and I talk about this with a lot of shows, in theater, and especially music theater, you need to give us a character that we like or can relate to, and then give them a strong want that they are fighting for, and then put obstacles in their way. This is just what we usually need in some kind of theatrical or narrative piece. That's what we need. And yes, I could relate. As a writer, I completely related to him. Sorry. As a writer, I completely related to them. But I lost all sympathy right at the beginning because you're a writer. Writers dream of commissions. Commissions are wonderful. And the fact that they're complaining about being paid to write a piece about something that they pitched made it so that I just could not get on board with this narrative. And then I was like, okay, I really was thinking in my head, you have to win me back now. You have to make a case for this show. Now, there were some moments that I really did enjoy, and it was when the piece really focused on the 5 people that were murdered. There was a moment where the 5 people come in and they kind of talk about, from the afterlife, about that day and the mistakes that have been made and how they feel about it. But this only lasted for a very short section of the show. And most of the show is focusing on César's struggle to write the show. And because I don't really care about that struggle. I should, I'm a writer, but I don't really care about that struggle. I'm not invested in the piece. That was my main issue with this piece. And then on top of that, it is billed as a musical, but as I read in Caesar's bio, they're not writing traditional musicals. So the songs there's 12 songs in the show. There's 6 in the first act, 6 in the second act. The show's about 2.5 hours. Some of the songs are very short. The lyrics are very poetic. Fortunately, they are projecting the lyrics on the back of the scrim. Sometimes they're difficult to see depending on what's going on stage. Sometimes set pieces or people are in the way. But it is so important that they project those lyrics, because if I just had to listen to the lyrics, I would have not understood them, because they're very poetic. A lot of them don't have a lot of rhymes in them or perfect rhymes. And the structure of these songs is not your traditional A-A-B-A kind of song structure or verse chorus song structure that you are used to. Some of them use that, but a lot of them don't really have strong choruses that we feel like we've landed in an idea. A lot of them are very much stream of conscious, poetic, lyrical ideas. It's not my favorite kind of songs for the theater. I'm a more traditionalist in this regard. So I appreciated that I could read the lyrics, because actually reading the lyrics, they landed for me. I understood them more because it's poetry, and poetry is much better, I feel, read than recited. Oh, another positive, I'm bouncing around between positives and negatives. Queen Jean did the costumes for this. This is set in 1979, or the part that they're talking about, the Greensboro Massacre, occurred in 1979. And she's done very believable 1970s costumes. She must have a go-to place where she gets these costumes. So again, great work by Queen Jean, not surprisingly. You know, this show, speaking of Queen Jean, who also did the costuming for Liberation, I'm getting a little, no, let's not say that. There's a lot of meta-theatrical pieces that I've seen and loved. Liberation is meta-theatrical, and I loved it. But I think the reason Liberation really works is that, one, our lead character is so believable as the writer that I feel a lot of the audience thinks she is the writer. This production, I loved Anthony Alfaro, but it's much more of a presentational kind of performance. So we immediately know from the beginning that we know, okay, this is not actually the writer, this is an actor. But in Liberation, her mother has passed on, and she's trying to understand two sides of her mother. This woman who started this women's liberation movement, and this woman who got married and lived a traditional life. And she had this relationship with her mother where she never really got to answer that question. So in that show, I'm with her. I want her to understand her mother, and I'm willing to go on this meta-theatrical play because I feel like it really focuses on the women in the liberation group and their struggles, and it's about this woman trying to understand them. Whereas I felt Caesar was trying to show us the difficulty of writing the piece, and I wasn't invested in that portion of it. Whenever we focused on the 5 murdered victims, that's when I was engaged in the play. And I think of another meta-theatrical piece that I absolutely loved, title of show, which was one of the first years at the New York Musical Theater Festival, rest in peace. But that show also really worked with me. It was about writers and about writing the show. It really worked for me because they were so young and they had these hopes and desires. And the songs were written in a more traditional way, and the show was extremely funny. And I could root for these young writers. Here we've got someone who is very successful, who teaches at a university, has won lots of awards, has gotten a commission. It's just a different animal, and I just did not have the sympathy for this character that I really needed to have to go on this journey. A little bit more about the music. I don't know if it's a story about a massacre. So you ask, should this be a musical? Well, it works by making it's not a show about the massacre where they're singing. It feels like really it's more of a play, and then the music is giving us more of a flavor. It's giving us emotion. It's dealing with certain ideas. So in that regard, the music does work for the show. The songs are very stream of conscious. I actually really loved a song in the second act sung by Caesar's father, played by Ruben Flores. And he sang a song that actually reminded me a lot of the song more recently from Operation Mincemeat, where Hester reads the letter, and it's a letter that she's written to this fake person. And also it reminded me of there's a letter in Billy Elliot where the mother has written a letter to her son. In this song, Reuben is asked by Caesar, what would you say to your friend who was killed in the massacre? And he basically tells him all about what's currently going on in the world. And I thought this was a lovely moment. I just wish those other two songs I mentioned are stream of conscious, because it's like a letter, but they all have a repeated section that they return to. And I just feel like this is so important in songwriting. And this song had a repeating section, had a repeating idea that it came back to about apartheid in South Africa. It kept coming back, can you believe that Mandela won and that apartheid ended? But the lyric is different each time, so we don't get that feeling of landing on a chorus or something that feels like a chorus or a repeated musical motif. And so a lot of the music here, César was a jazz saxophonist, and so a lot of it I think is being influenced more by that side, the jazz side, and just experimenting and playing. But I really, as a musical theater lover, I really long for repetition. I long for structure. I long for songs that show us character and move the plot forward. And interestingly enough, the first song that we hear is called Let's Make a Drama. And it's couched as, well, we're doing a musical, we need an opening number that's upbeat and fun. And so then they sing a song about, we're writing a show. It's very meta. But for me, I want the opening number to establish the world of the play. And it does do that in that it's saying this is a meta show. But this song could begin any show because it's just a song saying we're writing a musical. So I just felt like it was a missed opportunity to really, really bring us into the show and give us a feel of what it is we're about to see, other than the fact that we're seeing a meta-theatrical show. So was I bored? Was I confused? This show is about 2.5 hours. I wasn't really invested in the lead character, and there was a lot of confusing moments for me with the songs. I didn't quite always understand the poetry and how it related. They were using this camera that looked down on this desk, and they were putting together a collage with, like, I guess, glue and some colored dye, and then spraying water on it, and then it got kind of foamy, and there's a song about sea foam and about the ocean. And so not confused in the sense that I understood that we're not watching a narrative piece, so I kind of was like, okay, we just let whatever happens. But if I really tried to understand what all this meant, I would really need to sit down and give it some deep thought. So in the moment, I was confused. I was like, okay, this is an interesting choice, but I didn't really understand why we were doing it. And I wasn't that interested I wasn't rooting for our lead character. I didn't really care if he finished the show or not. I more just wanted to hear about these people. So yeah, I was quite bored, and I was quite confused during this show. So what are the reasons to see this show? Who is this for? I would say this show is for people who are interested in the Greensboro Massacre, but his interesting thing, Caesar's mother made a documentary about it, and they show the footage that was actually shot when the massacre, people were there recording with cameras, and you see what happened, and it's horrific and terrible. And they do give the audience a choice. If people are sensitive to violence, they're allowed to leave the theater and go be in the lobby where they do some kind of ritual to honor those who were killed. But I found this documentary fascinating, and so I would say if you want to know more about the Greensboro Massacre, I don't think this show isn't about that. This show is about the creative process of making a show about these people and about ghosts and dealing with generational trauma that preceded your birth. But if you want to learn more about the Greensboro Massacre, I would look up this documentary that was made by Caesar's mother. But I think this show is for people who like experimental theater, people who really like La Mama, downtown, getting in the process, people who want to support the missions of Soho Rep and INTAR, the Latinx writers, and bold voices. If you like to be challenged when you go into the theater, this is a challenging piece. If you're interested in the creative process, if you're interested in social justice and how we remember those who have passed, then this is going to be your cup of tea, and I would love to hear your thoughts. I think for people who are really able to just let go of the want of a strong narrative and just enjoy the theatrical nature of the show and the ideas and the poetry and the sound and the lights, and just let that wash over you and feel the emotions, I think those people will have a really good experience with this show. For people, though, who really like strong narratives in their show, which is me, who like a more traditional structure, also me, this is going to ask a lot of you. So I got a press ticket for this show. This is in the Peter J. Sharp Theater, which does not have a bad seat. I sat in row B, which is actually, I think, the 4th row from the front, on the aisle. I think anywhere you sit in this theater is going to be good. I'd be curious if there is a better place to sit to read those subtitles. They're on the upstage on the right, but where I was sitting, the lamp was hanging down right in front of them. So I think maybe if you're more in the center, or maybe if you're sitting stage left, you might be able to read those titles better, but I'm not sure. Yeah. So I don't have any information about where you can get your cheap tickets just yet. I'll put that in the information when I find out later. So that is The Potluck, playing at Playwrights Horizons. I would love to hear your thoughts about this. So go check this out, and hopefully you won't be bored and confused. And I'll see you at the next one. Bye.
Don't wanna drift away, wanna stay inside the play. Keep me engaged, keep me amused with what's in front of me, 'cause I don't wanna be bored and confused.